So this week I have been painting without you. Don't be mad. I rarely do this. I have my camera and my lights and everything set up in my painting studio all the time, and it is my habit. Anytime I sit down to work on a painting, I always turn the camera on and record. That way I will always have nice footage to put in videos, even if I'm not making a video about the painting. Most of that footage will never see the light of day on this channel because it's not all good. But I have a habit of leaving the camera on all the time when I'm painting because there just doesn't seem to be any practical reason not to. I'm sitting in a super weird corner of my house today because all the normal corners are full of things. I also have to get this video recorded extremely quickly because it's 100 degrees outside my house right now. And it's about to be 100 degrees inside my house because the air conditioner is super loud and I can't figure out how to record a video with it on. I also have a Chicago pizza in the oven. I'm hoping that recording when I know I have a really short amount of time will help me to be a little bit more concise. Tell me in the comments if it works. I didn't realize it until I sat down to paint yesterday, but I have had this intense desire in me for a couple weeks now to paint without an audience, or like the threat of an audience, to paint without recording myself at all. I was doing some work on this guy, remember him? See, I'm like adding all the, I just had to shut the camera off in order to keep working. And I thought to myself, wow, that's really funny. Like, what's the big deal? I mean, if I don't want to show this footage, then I'll just never show it. I just had in me this need to create only for myself. I had this need to create for the sake of creating and for no other reason. And I'm curious to know what your experience is with this, because some people will tell you that that is like the only way to create is to just make something kind of in isolation from your own heart and mind without any input from anybody else or without thinking about how anybody else might respond to it. Like, if you consider the audience when you're making something, it will interfere with the purity of your expression. And that makes sense in a way because it's very easy to lose the distinction between what am I doing for myself and what is my own true belief and what am I just saying to make somebody else happy. That's a normal thing, right? What am I creating because it's a pure expression in my heart, and what am I creating because I would like to impress someone, or I would like them to see me in a certain light, or I would like to sway their opinion on a subject. But I myself rarely create without an audience in mind. I cannot have a vision of what I want to create without thinking to myself, who am I saying this to? The largest part of my creativity goes into making YouTube videos. Maybe that's why it's hard for me to think about creating without an audience, because that kind of creating is different, or at least it feels different from something like painting. Nobody writes a script and records a video and edits it just to keep it to themselves. That would be insane. I don't know if that's just a weird thing with me and that's the reason I make videos, or if the fact that I make videos has shaped my view of creativity because I've just been doing it for so long. Does art reflect life, or does life reflect art? I also wonder what the role of neurodivergence is in this, because I am a person, and I've talked about this a lot of times, who has a permanent, forever, continuous inner monologue. I have to talk my way through things. It's really hard for me to get my feelings out without at least imagining that I am telling it to someone. When I am processing my feelings about things in my mind, I think I always imagine that I am explaining it to somebody else. Does everybody do that? What is my expression if nobody's receiving it? I don't make stuff just to talk to an empty room. And if people do, I think that's a totally valid thing. For me, that's kind of the difference between like art and crafting. Crafting is something I do for my own pleasure, for my own enjoyment, for my own mental well-being. Crafting is making stuff that I like making just because I like making it and just because I enjoy the process. Whereas art, I might like the process, I might enjoy making it, those things are kind of necessary, but the reason I'm making it is because I have something to say. Traditionally, we think of those things as being separated by category, like painting a portrait is art and crocheting is not art. Crocheting is a craft. If you think crocheting isn't art, by the way, obviously you don't know who this is. He's my favorite person on Instagram, by the way. I'm going to put a link to his profile down in the description. Go follow him right now. But yesterday, I just was really overcome with this need to just make something by myself without being perceived. And without having to think about anybody else's needs. Because making things all the time with an audience in mind is exhausting, and I was starting to feel really resentful about it. Which sounds really dramatic and is basically stupid because you guys don't have like a bunch of expectations about my artistic ability and what I'm gonna produce for you in my painting studio. You're not making judgments about whether or not my subject matter is interesting enough to put on YouTube. I'm doing that. Oh, stop. Oh, baby. Yeah.
Garrett Watts posted.